No, I
Yeah.
highly recommend that people take a year or take 6 months, figure
Mm-hmm.
themselves out, go through your program, do the work that it takes to figure. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
make sure it's
yeah.
someone you like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like just make
Yeah.
sure it's somebody you can build a life with.
Welcome to the Marriage Magnet podcast, where it's not just about attracting the one, it's about becoming the one. I'm your host, Nechama Phillips, and here we focus on growth, high standards, and creating an intentional life and love through self-development. Navigate your dating journey with clarity and confidence, because marriage is not just a box you check off, it's your life. Welcome, Kayla Goldstein. I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to the Marriage Magnet podcast. I'm so happy to have you. And first things first, just introduce yourself. Let me know, what you do. I know you're multi-passionate, multifaceted. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Kayla Haber-Goldstein, and I run an organization called Questioning the Answers, which was started as an organization that helps women and supports them in figuring out like why we do what we do and intentionally living life as a Jewish person and connecting to Hashem and connecting to the Torah in a very intentional, real, comfortable way. And through that came like 1,000 other things that I do, but that's really like the source. That's how all of it started. That's like my identity.
Yeah. Amazing. And I love everything that you stand for, and I feel so connected to what you do, because that I had my own journey of like searching for spiritual answers and searching for redefining what I believed in and my Judaism for myself. And so I think also that connects with a lot of what I do today, which is like dating with intention, getting married with intention, like being growth oriented. And that's like everything that you stand for. And so I kind of want to bridge that gap of like asking you your opinion and perspective on dating and marriage coming from that lens of like the growth oriented, and intentional
I love
way.
it.
Amazing.
There's a lot of overlap. It
Exactly.
naturally has a lot of overlap.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. Amazing. So I guess really talking about dating with intention, getting married with intention, wanting high standards for yourself, like, life, love, religious connection. What would you say has been like the thing for you when it comes to like, do you feel like this applied to your dating journey? Is this something that you kind of like did after marriage? Like, I guess tell me a little bit about your journey to your spiritual growth and how that connects to dating and marriage for you personally.
So my journey it ended well, but it's not one that I would recommend to people.
Okay.
I started dating very much because I was 19 and I was like, whatever, I'm ready to get married. It's fine. I didn't really think much about it. I mostly just wanted to have like a friend, like somebody to live life with. I was lonely. I ended up dating my husband. It was very interesting. I got set up with a lot of guys who had the same description as me. They came from very religious homes and they were like the rebellious one.
Yeah, the outlier.
But I wasn't right. So I kept getting set up with these guys who were like from Haredi homes, but we're rebellious. But I wasn't rebellious. I was just different.
Yes.
I was never a rebellious kid. I never did anything that was wrong. So none of these guys were right for me because they were all rebellious and like they didn't want to. They weren't spiritual, and I was very spiritual. So I said no to everyone. I never went out. I was in Shidduchim for a year before I ever went out. And I ended up sitting down with my father and telling him, like, look, I want to marry somebody who's from a different community and at the top of the community. I don't want to marry someone at the bottom of this community. Like somebody who's like, I'm saying top and bottom of this. I don't mean
Yeah.
So it took my father some time, and then he was like, okay, if you want to marry someone from that community, like you're marrying the top of the top. So he went to YU Smicha and he was like, who's the best guy in YU Smicha in Israel? And my brother was working in Torah Shraga at the time, and he was like, here, I know this guy. He's in Smicha and he's in YU and he's a really good guy. And I dated my husband. So we got married, and
simple
we
as
had
that.
nothing in common. Yeah, we had literally nothing in common. Like,
oh my gosh.
We were really good friends, which was all I was looking for. But hashkafically, like, there was nothing. It made no sense. Like, I was like trying to figure out if I like want to be religious. He was Hasidish. Like, nothing made sense. None of it. So that's my journey, and like I really figured out who I am spiritually after I got married and after I had kids. I had 2 kids, and then I figured it out. And it's a lot more stressful to figure out who you
Yeah.
are when you have so much at stake. Like you have this husband that you love and these children that you love, and that's at stake. And you don't really have that like freedom to just like
Yeah.
find yourself. So I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend finding yourself first. I was lucky, but I think
Yeah.
I think I have a unique situation.
Exactly. And there's always room for growth and working on any marriage, right? Even when you're coming in compatible and with a lot of things that maybe felt missing for you in the beginning, even sense of self-wise felt missing. But the problem, I guess, becomes either when people are not willing to work, or maybe they don't understand what it takes to continuously communicate and work on your marriage. And it really applies. It's that same almost like work ethic that we have to have for our self-growth, for our spirituality, for our marriage, for our children, for life, right? And we need to be those kind of people who, like, the high standards require a high something of you, you know?
Right. Like if you want something to work, you're going to have to work hard at it, and it's not going to be nothing that's like actually very good comes just because it just landed in your lap. It doesn't happen.
Exactly. So even if it does land in your lap, like you're saying, in a way kind of it did for you, the hard work will just come at a different point. The problem is that if people don't know what that takes, or they're not willing, sometimes when they're in the moment, and it's just very hard and triggering, the whole situation of like things not going as well as they wanted to in whatever way, it might just be really, especially if they don't have the practice of growing and working on themselves and it's not familiar to them, it could be really tough to navigate things that come up in your relationship with your children.
So we had a situation where like we had 2 children, we moved to a different country, and then I didn't have like I went through like I was just like, I don't really like think this is true. And I just was like, I don't want to be religious, and I stopped being religious completely. And at the time that I stopped being religious, it wasn't like, oh, it's for a year. Like it was like my husband didn't have any sort of like security that this is a phase.
It wasn't like, oh, this is temporary, you're just going to work on it. No, it's like you're in the moment when you're living it, you're just living it, and you have no idea what that it's going to.
He didn't know. He was like, I don't know how this is going to end. And we ended up sitting down and having like whatever, after like a few months of like completely like not knowing how to handle the situation, we ended up sitting down and having like a very honest conversation of like, well, look, like we don't want to get divorced. Divorce is not an option for us. It's an option for some people. It wasn't an option for us. It was like, choose your hard. It will be hard to stay married. It will be hard to get divorced. We didn't want to go through losing each other. So we decided to stay married, and that began this like entire process of figuring out how to be married when one of you is a rabbi of a shul and one of you doesn't keep Shabbos. And like, how do we figure it out, and how do we raise kids together, and how do we run a home together when one of us is religious and one of us is not? And it's workable. It's possible. You have to have a lot of respect for each other.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, the key thing probably has to be respect, or else none of you would stand for each other. You'd be like, well, you don't get me. Well, you don't, like, you know, there would be too much conflict.
It wasn't like we have respect, so this is fine. It was like we had to learn how to have respect
no,
for
this
each
is
other,
the building respect.
Yeah, it took a long time because I thought he was like, I was like, you're falling for all of the stupidity. And he was like, you're acting like a teenager. Like, what? Like, we both had like a very hard time accepting each other. But once we did, then you have this safe space of like, oh my gosh, like I have a person in my life who fully accepts me and like is like he's my safe space. I could be anything, I could be anyone, and he's my safe space, and I'm not going to, like, I can never do anything. Like when it hit me, that realization that I can never do anything that will make him leave me. Like, no matter how weird or strange or whatever, like, it's a safety. And when we hit that point of that safety for each other, that's like, oh my gosh, Gan Eden. But it took like 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, it took a long time to hit that place. And I'm like, who knows what's going to be in the future. But it was like, it's like a moment of just like really understanding that like your way is your way and my way is my way. It happens to be that we had a happy ending, and I actually became religious. Obviously, I'm a Rebbitzin now, but we're religious in very different ways. And like, we're not the same at all, but we figured it out. So my point for saying all this is that if there's 2 people who found themselves and like you did the work, you found who you are spiritually, and you're strong and confident in who you are, and you also understand and accept other types of Jews, then once you're that person and you find somebody who you respect, then you can have like a little bit of smoother sailing. Like there's no need to like bedafka marry someone before you know who you are and have that struggle. You'll have other struggles. Like Hashem will make sure that you have other struggles.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Right. Because this one is definitely, everyone has their things, and marriage is going to be hard, and parenting children is going to be hard, and life, like it's going to be challenging. There's going to be things you need to work on as a person and within your marriage. And so it's like, let's not set ourselves up for extra difficulty. Although once you're in it, it sounds like you guys have navigated it beautifully, but it does take, I think it's also because you're a growth-oriented person that gave you the strength and the resilience to do that work, because many people in your situation would have given up. And also some people would have gotten into a relationship where, you know, certain things weren't workable, right? It wasn't a spiritual difference. It was, you know, maybe they were, you know, continuing toxic relationship patterns from their family dynamics or their early dating years, and then got into something where it's like they probably should get divorced more than work on it, because there may not be what to work on. It could be, so it's like either if you don't do the work before, either you'll be in a really hard situation that you have to do a lot of work and hopefully you're up to the task. And then the other option is kind of like,
or you'll be in a hard situation where you're getting divorced. Like either way, it's hard.
Right.
One is hard with a happy ending, and one is hard with the less happy ending. But either way, it's hard. And like,
exactly.
Look, we spend all day. My husband mostly spends all day helping couples figure out how to get along. This is what he does. He like coaches couples through Shambhais, and he's good at it. I spend my days helping women get divorced, which is hilarious. I think it's the funniest thing in the world. But that just goes to show you like how different we are. But my point is,
but
that,
also
like,
the same, because the ultimate mission is the same. Right? The ultimate mission is peace, is the health and happiness of each person individually and together. And if it can't be together, that's what you're working on. And if it can be together, that's what he's working on. So it's technically under the same goal, under the same umbrella.
But he spends all day helping couples like figure this out, and he'll tell these girls, because I have a lot of girls in my house who are single, right? We have a lot of girls who come to our house who are single, and he'll tell them like there's no need, like don't get into a situation that you already know it's going to be hard. Like if you are Shomer Shabbos and being Shomer Shabbos is important to you, and this guy isn't Shomer Shabbos, there's no need for you to like sit here and figure out how to accept him. Like find somebody who's more aligned with you.
Right.
If you're already married, figure out how to accept him. But before you get married, figure out what's important to you. Figure out who you are. Figure out what's important, how you serve Hashem, and what's important to you, and what's important for your home to look like, and what's important for your husband to be. Like, is it important for you that somebody sit and lead a Shabbos meal, or is it more important for you that, like, somebody who's really chill on vacation? What's important to you? And both are fine. What's important to you? And, like, I
love how you give the nitty-gritty examples that everyone actually thinks of, you know? You're like... You go straight to the
because
to
you
the
should know the amount of times that I have like girls who are like, I just want my husband to take my kid to shul. Like, why can't he just take my son to shul? Like, I want my son to have that. And I'm like, okay, but like he's not. Like, it's painful.
Yeah.
And like we need no need to put yourself in that situation. If you take the time before you get married, I think it's crazy that we expect girls to get married when they're 19. I think it's like
thank you.
I think it's like a horrible thing that we do in our life. I think that we should have like the Amish who have like a rumspringa where you like go. I'm so for this. I really think it's important. Go figure out
this is your next project.
Who you are. I'm gonna do it. Go figure out who you are and what you want to be in your life, and then find somebody who aligns with that. Don't get married and then figure it out together.
Well, it's so funny also that first of all, I don't have to talk because you're literally just saying everything that I always say. So thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Really. Because
I know there's a reason that we're friends. Like
Exactly. And this Rumspringa or whatever it's called is my program, essentially, from what you're saying. Probably not the same in certain ways, but that's what it is, right? Becoming like the self-awareness, the self-acceptance, the learning how to spot and avoid red flags, the communication skills, boundaries, what's important to you, gaining the clarity of what you need, what you want, what you're looking for, and also building the vision, because some people are just even too afraid to build a vision because they're just like, let me just get married because I'm 19 or I'm 20 or I'm 24 or I'm 28. And it's like, yeah, but this is your life, your quality of life, your marriage, your children, your entire future, hopefully for a very long time. So to take that lightly in the name of like pressure and fear is a big mistake, but also so understandable. And like you're saying, it's our fault that we put women in this situation, that we're just like, you're 19, time to get married. And that's really the whole purpose
it's a societal issue. We have an issue. We have like a real issue.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have a theory that the reason we do it is because we're like, quickly, before your hormones get the better of you and like you end up doing something before marriage, quickly get married. But like, it's not a good thing. I had a girl sitting at my dining room table the other night, and she was telling me, she had just come home from a date because she was dating from my house. She was telling me about this guy, and she was like literally like trying to convince herself that it's okay if she settles on like this. It wasn't like a spiritual matter. It was something else. And she was like, it's fine. Like, do I need that? Like, it's okay. And I'm like, you're not that old. Like, it's fine. Like, it's okay. Don't get married for the sake of like, I just want to be married. Like, you need and I literally said to her, I'm like, you are going to spend every Shabbos with this person, every Yom Tov with this person. You're going to sit on the couch at night and scroll TikToks with this person sitting next to you. You have to like the person. Like, you can't do it with somebody who you don't like.
I know, right? Like, there's like hard this enough.
Like pressure. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard enough with someone you like.
I know. And I don't even want to say it in a negative way because there are too many people who say it. It's like hard to figure out how to say that in a way that lands properly because there are too many people, I think, and I think you would probably agree, that say like marriage is so hard, and it's like a scare tactic where it's like, and you're like, well, marriage is so hard. Like, what? So then why am I wanting it? Why am I working my whole life towards it? Like, why?
Well, I don't know. Working out is also hard. Like, when you work out, it's hard. But it's like, it's like a good kind of hard.
Challenging.
Like,
challenging.
Yeah.
Challenging,
but it
growth oriented.
Makes you a better person. It literally makes you a better person. There's a story of a man in the Gemara who was somebody called him a tzaddik. He's a tzaddik Gomer. He never did any averos. And the other rabbi, I don't remember the names, but the other person who was learning with him was like, don't call him a tzaddik. He never got married. It's very easy to be a tzaddik when you're not married. Because there's an intimacy when you're married of like your spouse is the only person who will tell you, like, you do that and it's annoying and you need to stop. Like, they're the only people who will call you out and be like, this isn't, like, other people would just be like, okay, she's annoying, and like walk away and like live their life.
Or like, they're not seeing that because they're like, you're amazing. Like, even when people are like, Nechama, you're so amazing and you always, I'm like, ask my husband. No, he does think I'm amazing, obviously, but like, I have flaws.
Like,
I have
he
things.
Sees all your flaws.
Sees everything.
And this person sees your flaws. Like, they see your flaws. And they know about your flaws. And they still want to be with you, hopefully, but also they will point out your flaws. So it's hard. It's hard to live with somebody who knows you so intimately that they know everything that's negative about you also.
So that hardship is really just a challenge that you want to take on because you're excited to become the best person that you could be. Although, if you're not looking for that, that's going to be extra hard because you're like, stop telling me. Stop telling me my flaws. I don't want to do anything.
Very interesting. I help these women get divorced, and a lot of times I talk to them, and like they'll tell me all the things that were bad about him. But they never will, like, almost never will like share what
they contributed.
It's a lot of it is put on them. It's not necessarily them and like how they contributed and what they did, and like they were always perfect and he's a narcissist. Not everyone in the world is a narcissist. So, like, I just think it's interesting. Like, you have to be a person who's ready to say, I'm okay with somebody, if it's done respectfully and kindly, I'm okay with somebody telling me that I need to work on something, and I'm going to work on it. And you can't be that person if you didn't first do the work to, like, figure out who you are.
Exactly.
Because if I know who I am, and then somebody points something out to me that I'm like, that's not me, and I know that you're wrong, or I could say, you're right, and I need to work on that. But I can only do that once I know who I am. So you need to take the time before you get married to figure out who you are. Figure out your relationship with Hashem. Figure out what kind of person you are. Like, just figure it out. You're like a baby when you're 18. You don't know who you are.
I know, and it's hard to impart that because, especially in the society, like with all the pressure and all the like, you need to get married, and also it's almost like a ticket to belonging. It's a ticket to respect from other people. It's like, if I get married, I'll belong. I'll be part of society in a way that I can't be. So that starts to like trump everything else. And if we're not careful, it can override the desire to work on ourselves, even if we are a growth-oriented person. Because I know I felt that in my dating journey. I'm a very growth-oriented person. I literally went to seminary 3 times with a year in between. So I guess back and forth over the course of 6 years, I'm constantly learning, growing. I have my own coaches.
So jealous. I want to go. I never went to seminary.
Oh my gosh, you would love it. You
are
so your own seminary.
I want to go to I was like, I never went. I'm going to make my own. But I really want to go. I want to like spend a year in Kola. I keep telling my husband, I want to go to Kola. I want to put me in Kola.
Oh my gosh.
I just want to learn.
You would love it.
But see, like, that's why I tell these girls, I'm like, do it. You have the opportunity right now. Like, it happens to be that I was lucky. Hashem had a plan for me. And I was married to a person who was like, do your thing. Like, you need to take time, do your thing. And my father also was very much like, do your thing. So I was given this freedom to explore and find myself. I think that is incredibly rare, and I don't think that most married women have that freedom to just go and figure it out, and that their husbands and fathers would be like, it's totally fine. Like,
also, even having the space within your life, right? It's like when you're, honestly, when you get married is a major identity shift. And then when you have children, oh my gosh, major identity shift. And the way you relate to them and the world and everything, it changes your DNA. Like, so imagine.
It changes everything.
Imagine not knowing.
It changes like what movies you can watch.
Everything, literally everything. And how you, everything. So it's like, how do you expect? I mean, you can, and you did it, and I love that you're a living example of it. But it's a very tall order to be like, when everything is changing and your identity shifts over and over and over, also have the space, time, freedom, and acceptance of others, like to find yourself and to start from scratch in that way. Like it's almost impossible, I would say. Like you're saying, it's very rare to be able to, not only with the acceptance of other people, but to have for yourself, to have the space to do that within your own emotional capacity, because there's so much going on.
I don't think that it was the same. I think I did start from scratch. I think I became a completely different person. Like, I look at myself from before, and I'm like, who is this person? Like, I don't even understand how my husband, like, married that person. Because I'm like, if you're married to me, how are you married to that person? Like,
fragmentation.
So it doesn't make sense. But it's hard to go through, and people sometimes say to me, you're so lucky. You're so lucky you had your father. You're so lucky you had your husband. You're so lucky this. I am a very lucky person. Don't expect it. Like, don't, like, I'm not, like, this is the weirdest thing in the world to say, but, like, don't copy me. Like, don't do what I did. It sucks. Like,
do as I say, not what I do.
Exactly. Go figure it out. Like, I figured it out. It happened to be that I figured it out when I was 24. And, like, if you have the ability to go and figure it out before you get married, you should, and you should take some time. And like, you think it's the biggest deal in the world, but when you're 50 and you have 7 kids, if you got married at 21 or at 23, it really doesn't make a difference. It really actually doesn't make a difference in your life at all. I have a sister-in-law that when she got married, it was like, oh, she got married late. I literally am like, how? You have 8 children, you're like in your 40s, you're like loving life. Like, your life is amazing. And she was stressed. Like, she was considered like one of her older friends. And it was just like nothing's gonna happen if you take a year or 6 months and you figure
and you know what
out
even if it does, right, and people are concerned about, like, let's say someone wants to have a really large family, that could definitely impact, like, if they get married later. But not saying everyone does want that, but it's like, is the trade-off of what you're imagining your life to be like. Let's say you're like, I am the kind of person, I want 10 kids, right? And if I get married at 32, it might not be so possible, right? So it's like,
first of all, I'm not even saying you should get married at 32. I'm saying you should get married at 24 instead of 21.
Right, even just the initial difference.
By the way, like, you don't know. You could have twins.
Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, who knows what's gonna happen?
People get married at 20. Like, I have a friend who got married at and like, she's waiting 11 years for children. Like, you really don't plan your life.
Exactly.
You can't.
And also,
I got married. I told my husband that I'm gonna have 19 children.
Oh my gosh.
And then I had 2, and I was like, okay, I'm done.
Oh my gosh, you know the 19 and Counting show from like years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've been watching
I had a friend in Australia.
Documentaries on it.
You should not watch it. It's a terrible show. I had a friend in Australia whose mother had 21 kids. And I was like, that's too many.
That's a little too
many. I'm going to do 19. I'm going to be like
conservative.
You know, moderate.
Oh my gosh. But really,
I have to.
Really what I was trying to say from this, besides for expectations being different, is that the trade-off of you taking the extra time and growing into the person that you can become so that you make a better intentional choice when you get married is a trade-off worth making, which sometimes in the moment doesn't feel that way because you're like, no, because I expected my life to go a certain way, or I see all of my friends are getting married. I literally have clients who are 20 and a half saying that they're struggling because, you know, a bunch of their friends just got married and they just feel so alone and out of it. And I'm not minimizing it, but it's a problem in society. Yeah, exactly.
That is not okay.
Yeah. And
like
so the combating of this is really, this is for me right now what my mission has been for a while, and what I feel very like over passionate about, because I just can't stand seeing this continue to happen where people are getting married. You know how many young divorces and like husbands up and leaving, and like the weird stories that used to hear, like few and far between, are I know like 5 to 6 stories off the top of my head that I could say of close people, friends of friends, sister's friend. Like, I mean, I don't know. Have you been seeing that pattern more of like people getting married, getting divorced 6 months later?
You get married from like the pressure of getting married, pressure. So you just get married. Also, there's like the weird way that we date of like you date for 2 seconds, yeah. Like you don't know the person,
right?
And you get married, and then you find yourself, and there's like also this idea of like, there is an idea of like, if I'm finding myself, I have to be single. I can't be married. And if we're different, then I have to be divorced. And that I also think is a huge mistake. And I also think that not everybody that's getting divorced has to get divorced. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you can just take a break from like, let's take a break from this and focus on that. And like you can give each other space, and like,
yeah, you see, you are an advocate. You see, you and your husband are doing the same thing. See that?
Fine. Right. We're not that different. But my husband just spoke at my niece's Shabbat Brachos, and he said, he's like, he said the reason Yisro joined the Jewish nation was not because of all the miracles, but it was because of the war with Amalek. That he saw that they're able to get into a fight with someone. That they weren't perfect. They messed up. And he's like, okay, if they mess up, then I could join them if they mess up. And he was like, he gave them a bracha. He's like, give you a bracha that you should give each other the space to be imperfect. They should be able to give each other the space to not be perfect for each other. And I do think that there is like this, like, there is a phenomenon of people just upping and leaving, and people giving in very easily, because there's this idea that like, I didn't know myself when I married you. I didn't know who I was, and I want to figure out who I am. So I need to go like ditch my life. And you don't have to. It also happens to be that I think that people in the olden days didn't get divorced and it was a taboo. And nowadays, people don't stay in bad marriages. People leave. And more people leave. So I think that there is also like, there's a positive that people are getting divorced.
No, I agree.
I think that there's a safe space for women to leave abusive
There's
marriages,
an option. There's an option versus it used to be not. Yeah, for sure. If there's no abuse.
It used to be like not a thing. It used to be not a thing. And I think that if there's no abuse, though, like there really is an ability to work on it, and people are quick to say like, well, I want to find myself, I want to figure out who I am, I got married when I was a baby, and they like go on and have like a whole second life after they figured themselves out, and it's beautiful. I'm happy for them, but like try to do it before you get married so that you don't have to go through that.
Right.
And then,
but then some people are like, well, you know, everyone, obviously not everyone, but a lot of people that I know are getting married and like it just works out and they seem fine and they seem happy. First of all, I don't think a lot of people are as happy as they could be, number one. And number two, a lot of times it doesn't work out. So like it seems very much, it's easy to like.
Also, it could be that people get married young and they get married without thinking, and they get married and it works out. I got married. But
it didn't just work out. It didn't just work out.
But it looks like it did.
It looks like it did. That's the difference.
And the amount of people who say to me, well, it's different for you. Your husband is so accepting. Your husband is so respectful. I spent a year with a husband who did not respect me and did not accept me. And I didn't respect him or accept him. Like, it's not true. We went through years of figuring it out. And this, mostly, I'll tell you the real reason why we're still married is because we literally decided that divorce is a 4-letter word. It's never being mentioned. We're not talking about it. It's not an option. And that's why we're married. Because at the end of the day, it was like, we're figuring this out.
Yeah.
Crook by crook, we're figuring it out. Nobody's leaving. And we really like looked at each other and made that decision, which is why we're still married. But it took a lot of work and a lot of patience and a lot of hardship and a lot of tears and a lot of heartache. And like, it looks like it worked out.
Yeah.
And somebody looking at my life would say, well, she got married young and without thinking, and it worked out for her.
Yeah.
But it's not true. It worked out because we decided to
right.
make it work out.
It worked out against all odds. It didn't just work out because that's what you're recommending to other people to do, basically.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
highly recommend that people take a year or take 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
figure themselves out, go through your program, do the work that it takes to figure. No, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
I think your program is genius. I think
Aw.
your program is so smart because
Thank you.
when you tell somebody to go figure themselves out, it's a giant request. It's like a it's a hard
Yes.
thing to
And
do.
to do that
Nobody
alone.
knows even where to start.
Right. It's like, wait,
what?
what?
Now what? Like, okay, do I go to India? Like, what do I do? But like this kind of gives them like a coach and a plan and a step-by-step process
Yeah.
of like figure out what you want from life, who you are, what
Yeah.
you want from yourself, what you want to be, what you want your house to look like. Like these are questions that are so dang important. Like,
I
they're
know.
so important.
And unfortunately, we're not always, taught or encouraged to think about these things even as we're growing up. So I think it's like you're starting from zero. Hopefully, you come from a family that, I mean, I want to impart to my kids.
By the way, that's another issue. That's another issue.
We can't talk about all issues right now. But yeah, basically, you might be starting more from scratch than you would even hope with these things if you come from an environment and a family and an upbringing where these questions weren't encouraged for you to start doing that. Even a little bit of that work as you're growing up to be a thinking person. So it's interesting because I feel like the two most common objections, so to speak, that people have when we're talking and like they're interested in joining my program, but then they're just like, no, wait, like obviously there's a lot of fear. But the first thing that they say is like, I don't know if I really need it. Right? Where it's like, it's almost like I heard about this. I thought maybe this will be good for me, but like, wait, no, I just want to bury my head in the sand and like hope that it works out just like everyone else. I'll just get married like all my friends. And I probably don't need this.
Or do people think they know what they want because they have like a picture in their head, but they didn't actually spend time figuring out if
they didn't actually
so
really delve into it, or they're just like, I don't want to spend money on this, in other words, right? Which is like, I mean, go on one less vacation with your friends, right? Or do like, this is your life we're talking about. This is your life. There's nothing, it's like, it's hard to even impart. Like, this is your life you're talking about. Figure it out. Like, find a way, because if this is important to you, and that's why it's so interesting, because when I see these like objections popping up and these mindsets, it's like there's nothing I could do to help someone help themselves if they're not willing. But it's sad because it just reinforces the whole societal issue, which is that people are either like, let me bury my head in the sand and let me just like hope everything works out and it's fine, or they're literally saying, in other words, this is not worth investing in. I'm not worth investing in. This is not something that's so important more than me buying clothes and shoes and going on vacation. I would rather go on vacation with a friend. And
nobody gives you an objection of like they don't want to spend the time. That nobody tells you like, I just want to get married now. I don't want to wait 6 months.
First of all, I actually made my program 3 months instead of 6 months, even though I really wanted to make it 6 months, because I knew that it would be bite size for people to be like, it's 3 months. And they do have the option to like, stay on for another 3 months. But I even knew that that's definitely a thing, because people are like, 6 months? You expect me to just wait here and not date? And which, by the way, I don't expect that. You can be in the program and be dating continuously
at the same time.
Yeah, but I think it is a time thing, but it's because it's 3 months. I think I don't get that as much. It's more so the like, wait, I don't know if I actually really need this, and I don't know if I want to spend on this, because they're not valuing what it's actually going to do for their lives, which is, it's really just systemic.
I think it's interesting also, like, I have these girls, it is systemic. I have these girls that like, they don't do this program, right, because this program is new, but they kind of instead they've been dating for so long, and they've been dating so many guys, that through the dates with each person they figure out more and more what they want and what they need in life.
Yeah, it takes experience.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
It's emotionally draining. It's years of frustration, and it's exhausting. And it's and I watch them, and like, I don't have this experience. I married the first guy I actually went on a date with. I don't have this experience, but I watch them and I'm just like, my heart is breaking for them. Like, but if they would, like, I'm just thinking, if a person, instead of going on like 1,000 dates for 4 years, would take 3 months and really just take the time, and whether it's like whatever in your program, not in your program, whatever it is, but like if they just take the time to figure out who you are and what you want from life and what's important to you and what's not important. What can you compromise on and what can you not compromise on? And then you go on a date. You already have all of that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So you know straight off the bat, is this for me or is this not for me? I know, I'm aware.
Yeah, and you're gonna spare yourself so much heartache and so much like confusion, and have the ability to like block off the noise and the pressure that's going on. That's just like your mother's like, well, he seems like a really great guy, and you're just like, something in you is like, and you don't know what it is. So you're like, okay, yeah, I guess she's right. And meanwhile, if you actually delved into it, you would realize, wait, this value that he has is so against everything I believe in, and I just don't. This is just not going to work for me. But it's hard to pinpoint if you just don't have that.
If you don't
awareness.
know the values that you believe in. If you don't have your values that you could say, this is important to me and this is not important to him, and I want to marry somebody whose Shabbos is important to him, then, like, obviously when a girl grows up in the frum community at the age of 19, she's like, obviously I want a man who's going to be kovea itim and shomer Shabbos and go to minyan and support the family, or not to work or learn, whatever. Like, that's obvious. But think about it for a second, for real. Think about it. Would it actually bother you if Shabbos morning your husband decided to stay home? It wouldn't bother everybody. Some girls would love it. Some girls would love the alone time and the quality time. Some girls want their husband to stay home Shabbos morning. Does it actually bother you? You have to think about these things. And it's not just that. It's like, what's your relationship with Hashem? Why are you from? You have to know why you're from. Because if you don't know why you're from, then whenever something hard happens, you're going to stop being from. Let's say you have a value system of why you're religious. You want a relationship with Hashem, and you believe that the Torah is the best way to accomplish that, so you want to keep the Torah. If you go out with somebody who is charming and hot and cute and gives you 1,000 compliments and makes you feel like the most amazing person in the world, but he's not religious and he influences you to do things that you don't want to do. If you don't know why you have a relationship with Hashem, you will drop it.
And you'll probably build resentment over time, because it will start to eat away at what the core is of yourself without even realizing. You might just grow resentful and not really realize, and meanwhile it's because you compromised initially on something that was so important to you and you allowed it to take something from you, right? That part of you that does want to connect. And yeah.
And by the way, there's a lot of married people. There's a lot of married people that I talk to who have resentment of things that they did when they were dating and when they were engaged, that they feel upset that they did, and they hold on to it in their marriage because they're like, now I know it's important to me, but I didn't know it was important to me then, but it was, and I'm upset now that I gave in then. So like, even if you end up marrying the guy, just to save you the heartache of like, this is my value system and these are my boundaries and this is what's important to me and this is why.
Yeah.
When somebody pushes against those boundaries or the value system, because they will, because that's life. Your values get tested. That's how you know what your values are. You will know to stand up and be strong or to get hurt. And like, just to protect yourself from pain, like take a little bit of time and figure out what you want and who you are. Like, it's like, this is the rest of your life. You're going to be married for 100 years. Like, you're going to if you get married when you're 20, you are going to be married for 100 years. Like,
I mean,
make sure it's someone you like. You know what I'm saying? Like, just make sure it's somebody you can build a life with.
Exactly.
You know?
And just like the religious piece, like you're saying, the connection with Hashem and like having that strength throughout like what life brings. It's also when you make a choice that you felt you didn't get pushed into, because I feel like so many people have that problem where it's like, well, looking back, I realized it was because my mother pushed me to do this, right? If you make a choice where you feel you intentionally made a choice, every time you get into an argument, you're still going to be like, well, I made this decision fully. If you feel confident that you really made this decision and that you decided at that time to choose the person that you thought was most right for you, it's so much easier to navigate any conflict that comes up because you're falling back on your own self-trust. You're like, well, I chose this person fully on my own, out of intention, out of self-understanding. And so if I chose this person, it's so much easier to be willing to like work through when things come up.
The amount of times that a woman has said to me, well, I've never really loved him. I never really liked him. I never really was attracted to him. It was more like I had a girl tell me once, I was never attracted to him, but everybody told me that attraction would come with time.
Like, oh my gosh, such a common thing, unfortunately. Oh my gosh.
Right? But if you did the work and you weren't getting married because this is what looks good, or because like I'm 20 and it's time to get married and everybody's telling me that I'm being shallow for, like, no, you're not being shallow. You need to be attracted to your husband.
Yes.
That's not shallow.
No.
That's basic. It's literally halacha. Like, it's literally halacha that you're not going to marry someone you're not attracted to. And like these type of things, like it's not even like, oh, you need to go and figure out your type. That's not what I mean. But you just need to become a person who trusts yourself and knows, actually, I could say no and I'll be okay. I'd be okay waiting for the next guy and marrying someone. Like you don't end up settling because you have some self-respect. Like you have some, like, no. And like you don't want to end up, it's true, you don't want to end up 5 years down the line being like, well, I never chose you, I was forced to marry you. Like, you don't want to say that.
Exactly.
You know how many people have to say that? You don't want to be one of those people.
Exactly.
You want to be able to say, like, I love you, everything else can suck, but I love you. At the end of the day, I love you. I chose you for a reason, and things are sucky right now, but I chose you for a reason, and we'll get back to that.
Exactly.
And you can't say that if you didn't choose him.
I love everything that you're saying. First of all, tell us where to find you before we wrap up. And like, obviously, I could continue this conversation for hours. And I miss you, by the way. It's been too long.
I know. You moved to Vegas, girl.
I know. You have to come visit me. I'm waiting. I have a guest room.
I'm gonna. It's very cold here. I'm on my way.
Okay.
I am on Instagram at questioning the answers. This is my life. This is my identity. I figured out who I am. I am questioning the answers.
Yes, that's who you are. You question the answers and you are continuously growing, and I just love it. I love that your message just vibes so well with what I do, and it's just yet another thing that we have in common and to connect on.
Do overlap a lot. It's funny. We do.
Yeah, but funny. I love your passion, and I love
when you find someone like that.
Exactly. I love how you're spreading these positive messages about intentionality and growth and all of that. And to everyone watching and listening, definitely, go be in touch with Kayla. You're going to learn so much from her. And I also want to let you know that the Marriage Magnet Method program is now open for enrollment. And if this self-work and self-growth is something you want to do, I am your gal. So definitely be in touch. Look at the description for all the information. And I'm so excited to work with women to help them find and keep the love that they deserve, make decisions with intention, and have a beautiful, amazing life that they deserve instead of just, being okay with whatever.
So I just want to say, like, one thing. Marriage could be really awesome. It doesn't have to be sucky. So, like, I just want to put that out there because I feel like we ripped on marriage a lot.
No. Just being intentional. Being intentional. Marriage is...
You gotta be intentional.
It's the best thing ever, so that's why you need to be intentional.
Exactly. You want to make sure that you get a good one, and you need to be intentional in order to do that.
Yeah. Amazing.
You need to have intention.
Yes, exactly.
It was so nice talking to you. I want to talk to you more.
I know. We will. Thank you so much for joining and being on the Marriage Magnet podcast, and we will see you in the next episode.